Matt Stone and Trey Parker are here. In 1997, they created the television show South Park about four foul-mouthed fourth graders. It was an immediate hit. Since its debut, the show has attracted both controversy and praise for taking on comedic targets ranging from Scientology to Paris Hilton. Now Stone and Parker have written and directed their first Broadway musical. It is called The Book of Mormon. They call it their atheist love letter to religion. I am pleased to have both of them back at this table. Welcome.
Thanks for having us again.
Good to be back.
It's my pleasure. March 24th, it sort of officially...
Yeah, it's crazy because we've been working on it for 7 years and we don't work that long on anything. So this is it's crazy to work that long on something and then suddenly it's
time.
It's done.
It's ripe.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's ripe as it's going to get.
It's ripe.
It's ripe, isn't it?
It's ripe.
What do we mean by ripe?
We're ready to, it's a full term thing.
It's been 9 months or 9 years.
Yeah. It feels like about a year and a half ago, we'd been working on it as our other project for a long time. Yeah. And we finally, about a year and a half ago, we were like, well, we just got to do this or not. So it's been a lot of work the last year and a half.
So I know you've told this story before, but tell me where this idea came from.
In 2004, we were doing Team America, this marionette puppet movie that we did, and we were in town. We were in New York City, and Scott Rudin told us about this puppet Broadway musical called Avenue Q.
Right.
And we thought, oh no, someone else did marionettes, because we thought marionettes was such an awesome idea. It's like someone's going to steal it, or I don't know what we're thinking. Yeah, so we went and saw Avenue Q, and we both loved it. And we looked in the playbill, and Bobby Lopez, one of the co-writers of it, had thanked us.
We didn't even know who he was or anything,
yeah.
So we thought it was very weird to find ourselves in the playbill.
Yeah. And why did they thank you?
Well, what was crazy was we kept watching, and we really loved the show, and I've wanted to do musicals since I was a kid. So as it was getting done, we were both like, oh, this is the kind of thing we should do something like this. And Bobby was there that night, so we met him, and we're like, oh, nice to meet you. And we're like, we got to ask, why are we in the playbill? And he said, because it was the night that I saw the South Park movie that I said, I want to do something like that. And so it was just this crazy thing. And that night we went out and just started talking about, what interested us. And Mormons came up very quickly, as it always does with us. And he had a big interest in Mormons too. And it just seemed so natural to
So why does Mormons always come up very quickly for you?
It's just, for us, it was simple because growing up in Colorado, we're right next to Utah. We knew a lot of Mormons growing up. We'd heard the stories. Yeah. And, it was the same story. You heard about UFOs and cattle mutilations and Mormons, growing up. It's just like growing up in Colorado. And so
you said, let's do a musical about Mormons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you started writing.
Yeah. So we started writing. One of the first things we did was we went and took a field trip to Salt Lake City.
Yes.
Because we had been there a bunch, but Bobby had never been there.
Yeah.
So we went to Salt Lake City. We did some tour group stuff. We went to Temple Square.
A lot of missionaries.
Yeah. And then we talked to a bunch of missionaries.
So this is great. So you'd go to places like a coffee shop, and you'd say to them, "Any missionaries here?" And me?
Oh yeah, no. We'd be at a restaurant and we'd be like, oh, no, we're talking around ideas, and we're like, oh, and maybe one of the missionaries, is kind of like hiding out the fact that he's maybe gay inside, and we're talking to the waiters, we're like, do you know anyone who is in a mission who maybe is gay now? And they're like, how many do you want? Just like, next thing we know, we're talking to like 8 different people, who are...
You had a story.
Yeah, we had a story.
Post-collegiate, waiters in Salt Lake City. Most of them had been Mormons.
Yeah.
So you decide to do it not in Salt Lake, but in Uganda?
Well, the first thing we talked about, the first time we met Bobby, the first thing that came out of all of our mouths was Joseph Smith, the musical.
Right.
And following Joseph Smith from upstate New York to Ohio and Illinois, and then eventually he dies there and the Mormons make it to Salt Lake City. And we just started thinking, we don't want to do a musical with covered wagons and and that pioneer. We just don't want to do that. We want to do something more contemporary. And somehow we got onto missionaries, because missionaries are how people. That's a lot of people's first experience with Mormons, is they come to your door and ring your doorbell. And the missionaries have that job to tell you about Mormonism. So that's how we got on this idea of doing something about missionaries, and then send them to a place on earth that is just the polar opposite of where they grew up, in the suburbs of Salt Lake City.
And that's Uganda.
And for us, it's like, we said it in northern Uganda because that's the humanitarian crisis there, but it's supposed to be that place on earth when you read about it, you go, God, those poor people, can they get a break? They have this and this to deal with, and they're poor, and they got famine, and they got war.
And somebody arrives to convert them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was such a natural coming of age story, because once we were reading about how the whole missionary thing works, where, these young kids will be, a lot of them go to the missionary training center in Provo, and they'll spend several months learning the language of where they're going to go, and then they're sent somewhere across the world or somewhere definitely far from home, and then they're paired with someone that's their companion, that's their mate, and it was like such an obvious Broadway love story, here's our couple, and so it just seemed like such a natural coming of age story that would fit so perfectly into a musical.
So why is this an atheist love letter to religion?
Well, Matt says that because I don't really consider myself atheist, but
What do you consider yourself?
I have
a
no
believer.
Well, let's just say like even like a more specifically a non-Mormon's love letter to Mormonism.
So this
I
is
think
not
would be,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like and I think that's when we kind of wanted to do something about Mormonism, but make it pro-Mormon.
Yeah.
That's when we knew that this partnership with Bobby would work, because we wanted to do something that was like, I don't know, that makes sense to us. We've never considered ourselves anti-religion or anti-Mormon. Other people do.
Yeah, it's definitely like we were sitting there going, okay, let's rip on Mormons. How should we do it?
Yeah.
Let's spend 7 years. Let's start writing some songs. It's really, and it really was for me. I mean, growing up with musicals, I loved the classics. I loved all the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff. And so it really was, can we make a really solid traditional musical? And in the same way that they would use a group from Oklahoma, or then now we're talking about Chinese Americans, now we'll do this. It was like, let's do a really traditional musical, but with Mormons.
And so was writing the songs the hardest part?
Well, writing the songs was the main part, and that was the big thing. Was for us, we've done a lot of musicals now, actually, and it's always for a real Broadway thing, we said it's got at the heart of it has got to be great songs. Right. And so instead of sitting down, we sat down and started talking about the idea and the plot and all that, and then we just really made an album of songs first.
And then built it around the songs.
And we let the songs dictate where the show should go, because we wanted it. We didn't want to just write something and then go back and fill it.
But did the songs have a beginning, a middle, and an end, or did it?
Yeah, a lot of them are actually real plot songs that take you from here to there in the show, which that's hard to do. But that was the challenge. That's part of what we wanted.
So why did it take so long?
Well, partly it took 7 years, partly because Trey and I have a day job.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
at
true.
South Park,
Right,
that we always have to leave and go
It's
to.
been very good to you, hadn't it?
Yeah, so we're not going to give that up, you know.
neither.
But we would do a week or two, and then we'd put it down for 4 or 5 months, and then we do a week or two. And also, Bobby lives in New York and we live in LA, so it was just this perfect.
But you maintained continuity with it. In other words, you didn't have to sort of rev up to do it each time you came back.
No, because we kept recording the song, so we'd always have the album was getting bigger, and we could have, let's get together and do another song, let's figure out, and so it was really kind of making the album.
Yeah, a few songs at a time. But I'm glad it gestated that long too. Even though when we weren't working on it, I think we were thinking about it in the back of our minds. I think it's a lot better because.
So
it took
are you
us so
already
long.
thinking about another musical?
Hell no.
No.
We're thinking about a beach.
Yeah.
We need a vacation, both of
rest
us.
too?
Yeah, we need a vacation. So.
Because it's just hard work, or because you've been doing too many things?
No, I mean it's hard work, but also like this last month of going through previews and putting a thing on Broadway, we've never been through that before, and it's been hard work, but it's also been emotionally intense. Like just being in the room with 1,000 people watching something that you do, even though we do a TV show that 14 times a year on Wednesday night 2 or 3 million people see. It's something different about being in the room and with those people and watching it.
There's probably
watching
there's something
them.
to like
watching them.
Watching them.
Exactly.
There's something to like asking a woman, who's just given birth, like, you want to do it again? It's just like,
Give her a few weeks. Come on, give her a few weeks.
That's a good point. Take a look at this. This is a moment from the Oscar-nominated song "Blame Canada." Shouted for that, did you?
Trey got nominated.
for the song, but we lost to Phil Collins. The song "You'll Be in My Heart."
Beat this.
Beat this.
It is bad.
So here's what we're watching this, and you both are saying that you wouldn't pass muster now. We've gotten so much better.
Yeah, I mean the animation in South Park's gotten so much better.
Now, why is that? Because of the techniques of
a
animation?
lot of it's the technology has just gotten better. It used to render that in the computer would take a day. And now we could render something like that in about 10 minutes. Yeah.
And we know what we're doing a little bit more now. Then we know how to frame shots, for instance. And do things like that.
But what about the core of it? Is the core of it easier to do?
No. The core
What
of
is
South
the
Park
core of it? To tell the story?
The thing is that we still, we still want to do every episode ourselves, and so we haven't, we still do exactly what we did on the show from the beginning, and so we write and direct, and no, we just can't, and we can't because we start on Thursday, and by Wednesday we've got a finished show to put on the air. And so sometimes that Thursday morning, it's like we don't even have an idea, you know, and so you can't really, unless we did all the voices and all the writing, we don't have time to go, hey, you go take a pass at writing this scene and we'll look at it. It's like, it's just got to get done right then and there, you know, and so it's this crazy, intense going to battle for, you know, 2 months, but then, and it's done and we've just about killed ourselves, but it's the way we've done it every season, and so we don't want to change it.
Can you guys vacation?
I think I would like to work on that a little harder. Take some better vacations.
Take some better vacations.
From opening night, we get opening night.
What happens on opening night? You go to the big party after.
We don't really know because we've never been to opening night of a Broadway show before, so we're waiting to see what happens. But then we get basically a week, and we've got to be back at South Park for that run. But after that run, we're going to
a nice big vacation. We have been going back and forth between South Park and this for a couple of years now. We need a break. Definitely.
But is it as exciting today as it was from the very beginning, or less so because you?
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of what, you know, some of the stuff, like, I guess seeing yourself on TV, it's like now we've done that, or seeing your work on TV, like there is a little bit of, you know, we've been there, done that. But I think the heart of when we get excited about a show still comes down to when we're in the writer's room and we make each other laugh really hard about something, and that kind of is exactly the same as it was when we were 19 or 20 years old, and then you know you've got something. Yeah. And then
the elation of knowing something works as a joke.
The joke, an idea or a concept,
right,
you know, and like that's where we're like, okay, that's great, and that still totally is exciting.
And how about the moment when you went on Jon Stewart and he said, "Oh, man, I loved it."
That was, I mean, he's on the same network as us, so I think he had to say that. No, I mean, we actually saw him at intermission. And,
really?
Because we had to go every night. We were in the previews stage, so we had to sit and watch our show like 50 times in a row every night, and so. And we knew he was there, and he knew sort of where we were at intermission, and he came back just gushing even then, and we're like, oh, it's cool that someone like John loved it that much, you know. It proved that okay, but even just the audience in general, you know, we don't get a lot of. We get to finish South Park in the middle of the night on an Avid and sort of put it out there and go to bed, and then we can sort of read on the internet what people thought about it. But having this experience where we can be there at the back of the house every night and hear the audience laugh is something we haven't gotten to experience very much. So it's pretty fun for us.
You two working together, has that changed?
Not really, not the way we work together.
No, not the way. I mean, it's always kind of different. It's like, you know, it's always kind of changed depending on what we're doing. And a lot of times, like Trey's the director. And sometimes it's, you know, a producer-director relationship. A lot of times it's just a writing team relationship.
Right.
Sometimes we're going on Charlie Rose, and it's just two friends going on Charlie Rose.
Exactly.
You know, honestly, that's the truth. So it changes kind of depending on the situation. But I think it's good. We come from, our first thing we did was independent film. In an independent film, you just do it. You just get the camera. Somebody picked up the camera, and somebody do that. And you do it first, and then you figure out what you call that later, you know, and that's kind of always been our ethic. It's served us well.
How long have you had a relationship with Scott Rudin?
We've had a relationship with Scott Rudin since. Actually, it was great.
It
was actually no. It was funny. We did in college. We did a musical called Cannibal the Musical.
Yeah.
It was sort of just like a really a senior thesis film, and he saw that. He was already kind of a very big shot at Paramount, and he saw that little independent film and called us in, and we were sitting there in his office in Paramount, you know, right out of college, just going like, and he right away was like, hey, I want to work with you guys, you know, and we're like, okay, you know, so, and then we started working on something, and then we're like, well, we got this thing, we can do this TV show, and he's like, why would you ever want to do a TV show when you can do a movie? You know, it was pretty funny.
So okay, we'll do a movie.
Yeah, he's like, a TV show will never be that big, and we're like, yeah, but it's this thing called South Park. It's just, we're going to do 6 episodes, and then we'll be done with that, and then we can do a movie.
Yeah, is he the person in your guys' professional life who will say, this doesn't work, this is not funny?
Oh, but that's all he says.
It's not funny.
That's all he says. That's what he says all the time. This is not funny. You can do better. You can do better.
And
he came along at a point in our life in the South Park movie where we really needed to hear that. We were like the new stars in town, and you know, and he was like the one guy who's like, yeah, just anything you do is funny, and every executive tells you you're funny and you're great, and Scott's like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And wait, what?
But he's also the person just going, you know, you can do better. And for me, you know, he's always been, I really love NFL football, and so I always liken him to like Bill Parcells or that kind of football coach where he does kick our ass. He kicks our ass, and he doesn't let us be lazy. But at the end of it, after you've won the Super Bowl, you're like, "Thanks for kicking my ass." You know, and so
he's also
like a tiger mom, is he?
Yeah, and he's a guy that, like, I mean, it's always Trey and I and our producer Ann Garofino who does everything with us, and we kind of feel like when we bring something to him, he instantly visualizes it at the highest possible level. And that is something that's like, comedy doesn't get that treatment in Hollywood. It's always ghettoized to like, okay, we'll get it. You get some funny stuff in there.
He
sees it as like, we should make something great out of this, you know, and go for it. And
he
that's
sees
great.
the potential of something that's good.
Yeah, that's actually a great piece of art instead of just like some fart jokes, which we think it can be both. You know, we're those guys.
Can they really be art?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
We made a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, indeed. So what are you dreaming about now? I mean, if you've done the musical, you've done the movie, you've done the TV.
Well, I've been told other people are gunning for your job, but when you're ready to hang it up, I'd love to be the Charlie
take
Rose
the
Show with
table.
Matt Stone.
He's been talking about that for a long
really
time.
Have you really?
Yeah, it sounds like. I mean, this is.
And he
what a
will.
cool
He
thing
did
is.
say he
Would
would
you do it
keep
just the way I do it? Would you do it here at the table with the black
and it'll be
background?
the
You
Charlie
will?
Rose Show
He'll
with
keep it the
Matt
Charlie
Stone.
Rose Show.
A real tiny
starring
type.
Matt Stone.
The Charlie Rose. That will still be your show.
I'm ready to retire. Let's
Let's
just
do it.
make it happen.
Switch
do it.
table.
I'm going to Bali. I'm going to Bali. If I don't come back, it's you.
Charlie, welcome back to the Charlie Rose Show, Charlie.
With Matt Stone.
How was your trip to Bali?
Oh man,
I'm Matt Stone.
Beaches. Just think beaches. This is great. Thank you for coming.
Cool. Thank you. It was always fun.